So what should we really be making about this Duke football lack of run game on the offensive side of the football? It's a big topic of conversation. Offensive coordinator Jonathan Brewer feels pretty good, but how should we truly be feeling? Let's discuss here on today's episode of Locked On Blue Devils.
You are Locked On Blue Devils, your daily podcast on the Duke Blue Devils. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Hello, everybody, and welcome into another episode of the Locked On Blue Devils podcast. My name is JJ Jackson. Thanks so much for being here with us on Wednesday, September 11th, 2024. Locked On Blue Devils is your one-stop shop where we discuss everything going on in the life of Duke athletics, and we talk a whole lot about football and men's basketball. This time of year, the Blue Devils football team now 2-0 on the season and getting set for a game this weekend against UConn. Josh Cox from Duke Football Talks Section 17 podcast is back with us today. We'll talk about this football squad, a couple of other basketball notes and headlines that we want to touch on throughout today's program. If you have not done so already, please be sure to follow and subscribe to Locked On Blue Devils for free wherever it is that you get your podcasts. Leave us a 5-star rating and written review, and then watch the show each and every day on YouTube. Like these videos, share them with your friends, and most importantly, hit that subscribe button. Really appreciate you subscribing and supporting the YouTube channel that we've got going here with Locked On Blue Devils. We're on X at LO_Blue Devils, and I'm there as well at _JJ_Jackson_. Without further ado, we welcome him on into the program. Josh Cox back with us once again, man. And good. It's great to have a 2-0 football team getting set for a couple of more of the non-conference games. Hope you're doing well, my friend.
Yes, sir. Good to be back. Second time this week. Shout out to Locked On Blue Devils. And excited about the start that Duke football has had. I know we're going to get into some nitty-gritty stuff on this episode a little bit more. But, no matter how you get to it, going 2-0 and one of those wins being on the road in the Big Ten in some not so ideal circumstances, you got to be happy coming out of the first 2 weeks 2-0. There are a lot of other teams in the country who wish they were coming out of the gate 2-0.
Not many negative things to say about the effort of the Duke defense so far this season. That's why today really want to focus a little bit on the offense and an area of concern for so many people, talking about the ground game for the Duke football team through 2 games, through these first 8 quarters and 2 overtime periods, what we've been able to see from the Blue Devils in their rushing attack. And in a lot of ways for people, Josh, it starts when they've been evaluating and looking at these games with who's been out there in the backfield. Again, to remind people, they watched a drubbing on Saturday night that NC State took to Tennessee, and they see Jordan Waters out there in the backfield for the Wolfpack. And he had scored in the game against Western Carolina to begin the year, but that was kind of one of the big headline news from the offense in terms of, yes, some big names came in, but Jordan Waters not being there was certainly a player that Duke was going to miss on the offensive side of the ball with what he was able to do for the Blue Devils.
Yeah, certainly. That Duke football running back room last year featured him as well as Jalen Coleman. If you remember, J. Cole was kind of in and out last year with injuries, but finished the year very strong. And so, there are obviously a couple of people missed in that room. And so you have, really the 3-headed monster. And we predicted this, in the preseason. We kind of knew what it was going to look like with Jaquez Moore and then transfer Star Thomas and then sophomore Peyton Jones. And so, it is what it is on that. I think we're learning in football in general. If you're an NFL fan, if you play fantasy football, the value of running backs has just kind of decreased over the last few years. The shelf life for a running back, it just isn't what it used to be. And a lot of these offenses are being designed to kind of be plug and play. Whoever's back there, plug them in and let's go. You saw it in the NFL this past Monday night. You find out earlier in the evening that Christian McCaffrey isn't going to play.
Yep.
And so here comes the backup, and he won me my my week 1 of my fantasy. And so, I think not that these guys don't matter. I'm not saying that at all, but I am saying that it's good to be deep. And I don't know that there's major drop off from 1, 2, 3 as we go through and talk about these guys.
And so looking at Duke so far this season, Jaquez Moore comes in as the guy. You mentioned Star Thomas, who transfers over to the Blue Devils after being at New Mexico the past couple of seasons, and then Peyton Jones there. Duke currently sits 16th out of 17 teams in the ACC in rushing yards per game with 76 rushing yards. And then they've got total 152. That's also 16th in the league. To remind people, talking about Jordan Waters in that backfield, Duke was 9th in the league last year. So closer to the top half of the league a season ago. But just you look at what they were able to do compared to some other teams this season, it really has been down. But in that same breath, in the terms of rushing attempts that Duke has had so far this season, they're near the bottom as well. So there in some ways hasn't been that many opportunities to kind of get that rushing attack going.
Yeah, I mean, I think Coach Brewer mentioned it in his press conference earlier this week, and it is, he's really calling some reactionary to what the defense is giving the Blue Devils. And so if they're stacking the box like Elon did for the entire game, then that's why you saw a lot of those long passes and stuff. And with Northwestern, he was saying they had some gaps. There were some openings for the run game. And I agree with Coach Brewer. I felt like Duke did run the ball a little bit better in the game against Northwestern than they did in the Elon game. I felt like there were some open runs before. In fact, the run that Jaquez Moore got injured on was I believe a nice 10-yard run or something close to that. Star Thomas had a couple of good runs. And then on the season, Peyton Jones actually has the best yards per carry on the team. And so, obviously you don't want to be 16th out of 17th. You want to be able to line up, smash mouth, get a couple 3 yards anytime you need it. But it is a work in progress. And Duke fans, it is what it is. It is a work in progress. This is a pass-heavy, pass-forward offense. I think we figured that out and knew that coming into the season. So I think this is part of the natural growing pains.
As Duke prepares for UConn, they should feel better about the rushing attack. Just in terms of UConn this season, hasn't been the best, to say the least, against the run. In their 2 games this season, they have allowed 248 and 124 yards, respectively, on the ground alone. Big question marks as to whether or not Jaquez Moore will be available for this game. So expect more of Star Thomas, who already has 30 carries on the year. He's had over 100 carries the last 2 seasons at New Mexico State. So a larger workload is something that he is definitely accustomed to, and maybe this is a bigger spot for Peyton Jones. But, yeah, you look at the UConn side alone, Duke should feel pretty good about their chances to run the football.
I don't know what's more impressive, what Maryland did or the fact that, Merrimack was able to rush for nearly 150 yards on them. I mean, that's, a Duke should be, able to do that. Now, it does depend on what Coach Brewer wants to do with the offense. He may see something in the passing game where he's just like, hey, they give up some crazy gaps in the passing game. We're going to exploit that. So I'm not going to, try to act like that I'm sitting in his film room or anything like that. But I do think there is a opportunity this coming Saturday at Wallace Wade Stadium for Duke fans to see the rushing attack break out. And I'm looking forward to Star Thomas. He's going to break one.
Yeah.
And, it's going to happen. And so I'm looking forward to that happening.
Yeah, it's going to be epic. All right, so running game, something to improve on the offensive side of the ball. What about on the defensive side of the ball? If we were to kind of find one area to improve going into this UConn game, what would that be? We'll tell you what that could be after we take our first time out here on today's show. Locked On Blue Devils here today is brought to you by our friends over at FanDuel. You've heard us talk a lot about FanDuel, America's #1 sports book, and we've got something a little different for you. Now through September 22nd, all FanDuel customers can bet $5 and get a 3-week free trial of NFL Sunday Ticket from YouTube and YouTube TV. Then with the YouTube TV base plan, you'll be able to watch every regular season Sunday afternoon out-of-market game. All you need is a Google account and a current form of payment, and you can cancel at any time. And if that's not enough for you, be sure to check out FanDuel's Profit Boost in the app and use it for FanDuel's Double Your Winnings for all of this Sunday, September 15th, pregame moneyline bets. Profit Boost will be live starting tomorrow night, Thursday Night Football. You can use it for the games coming up on Sunday. View your account page now to learn more about your boost. Just visit FanDuel.com to download America's #1 sportsbook. FanDuel is a proud sponsor of Locked On Blue Devils. Our show today is also brought to you by Game Time. Game Time is the absolute best place to go when you're looking for tickets for your next concert, theater, movie event, sporting event, and so much more. Game Time has a new feature called Game Time Picks that makes getting tickets so much easier. Game Time Picks filters out the fluff to show you only incredible deals on great seats so you don't have to waste time searching through thousands of different tickets. You can get a panoramic view from your seat in the app before you buy. It's got the lowest price guarantee, or Game Time's going to credit you 110% of the difference. Your purchase is covered with the most flexible customer service policy in the ticketing industry. So go ahead and take the guesswork out of buying tickets with Game Time. Download the Game Time app, create an account, and use code LOCKEDONCollege for $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply. Again, create an account and redeem code LOCKEDONCollege, LOCKEDONCOLLEGE, for $20 off. Download Game Time today. What time is it? Game Time. Game Time is a proud sponsor of Locked On Blue Devils. Josh Cox here with us on today's show at Joshua Cox on X. Check out at Duke FB Talk as well. We teased it a moment ago. This Duke defense, been big fans of what they were able to do, right? Only giving up 3 points against Elon. They got stops when they needed to in that game against Northwestern, have done a really great job stopping the run. If there were maybe to be an area of improvement or something to kind of focus on in a game like this coming up on Saturday, what do you think that'd be, Josh?
Yeah, I'd like to see us lock down on the passing game a little bit. And I say that because there were some questions coming out of the Elon game. We gave up a little bit of those like out patterns on the side in the Elon game. And then in the Northwestern game, it was different. But A.J. Henning, I felt like, kind of had his way. And anytime they wanted to get him the ball, they were able to free him up to get him the ball. I think he had close to 10 catches, if I'm not mistaken. And so I would like to see that. And once again, I say this understanding that it could be part of the way the defense is structured in the scheme that Jonathan Packey and Coach Diaz have put together. Look, as much as you want to think you can do this, you can't take away everything, right? I mean, it's kind of a numbers game here, right? Like you have the same amount of defensive players on the field as they have offensive players. So like there's no way of saying like we're going to be able to cover every aspect of the offense with our defense. What you hope is that getting pressure on the quarterback, creating negative plays in the backfield, will make the quarterback throw inaccurate passes, tip balls, interceptions, other incompletions, right? That's what you're banking on. But if you're butted up man to man on everybody and you're just and you're bringing all the time, you're asking, to get beat, right? Like you're asking, like, they're going to block those guys and the receivers are going to beat your DBs and you're going to give up big plays. So I think though, with that being said, I would like to see us be able to really lock down and shut down a wide receiver that is a high volume wide receiver. That's one thing I would like to see on the defensive side of the football for sure.
Yeah, I mean, when we give off the rushing attack numbers, right, about 3 yards per carry against Northwestern, and you take away that 44-yard run that Cam Porter had in that game, like those numbers are incredible to sort of look at. And even still, to your point, the passing attack just wasn't so wildly horrible from the Duke defensive perspective. But it's like, yeah, if we have to choose something of these things, finding a way to stop or make those plays should be easy for the Duke football team. And even more so, knowing that like there's not been so much turnover in the secondary compared to some other spots out there on the field, right? Like that's a factor in this as well, which is why it does feel like this is an easy area for Duke to go out there and improve.
I think what you saw as well, and I think I noticed it specifically in this second week, I feel like Terry Moore, as Duke fans can remember, last offseason, he made the transition from running back to safety, which he played both in high school. And I felt like last season he was still feeling out the position. You know, you could tell he had the athleticism and the physicality to play the position, but I felt like there were some times where he was still learning and feeling it out. And I feel like this season, especially last Friday night in Evanston, I feel like Terry Moore, he had an interception, which was beautiful. I felt like he was
That was a
flying
heck
all
of a
over the
play.
field.
That was
It was incredible. I mean, and you could see it happening, but you're like, I'm not sure if he's going to get there. I'm not sure if he's going to get there.
And then
He got there. And he got there and kept his feet in. That was an incredible athletic play by Terry Moore. And so I think you're right there. I mean, the defense is playing well. We're kind of nitpicking, trying to think of areas. If you look as a whole, we mentioned the run game obviously needs some attention. Connected to that would be the offensive line needing, to help and do their part there. The defense, to me, we're kind of, we don't have much to choose from as far as the improvement because they're looking great, leading the country in tackles for loss.
Yeah, and let's keep that going. Let's find a way to make that happen there for the Duke football team. Okay, we've got to talk a little bit about some basketball notes and storylines that have popped up, and we're going to do that in our final time out here in just a moment. But before we go there, I do want to hear from you, Josh, and the people want to know, give us kind of a touchdown pick this weekend, right? We've already seen Jaquez Moore, Jordan Moore, Jeremiah Hazley, Eli Pankow. I believe those are the 4 players this season who have held the ball in the end zone for Duke. Are they getting back in, or give us a pick?
If you want me, well, first of all, I think Jordan Moore scores again. I'll give you that one. But I think if we're looking for somebody who's not been in the end zone yet, I'm going to go. I've already mentioned him, so I tell you what. Then since I've already mentioned him, I won't say start time. So let's go Samir Hagans. It's time for Samir Hagans to land one.
Yeah, you were going to choose. I was like, this is going to be either Samir Hagans or Star Thomas.
Yeah, so that was where it was
going.
I'm
glad I know you well.
Yeah, for sure. And I think it's time for Samir. Obviously the reemergence of Eli Pankow has taken maybe a little bit of the targets potentially. Even though I know they play different spots on the field, but there's also, you've got Sean Brown and others that are playing really well. So there's been a good rotation. John Davis Robertson got a lot of snaps. Javon Harvey, but I think this is the game where you're going to see Samir get one, and so it'd be nice to see him back in the end zone.
Duke and UConn, 6 p.m. Eastern time. Going to be a good one on Saturday. Let him know on X at Joshua Cox if one of those guys ends up in the end zone. Send him a little message and let him know you were listening on Locked On Blue Devils. All right, here we go. We'll take one more break, and then when we come back, talking a little basketball here to wrap up today's show. Locked On Blue Devils here today is brought to you by Ultimate College Football HC. I want to take a moment to tell you about a brand new mobile game that I really think you're going to love as much as I do. In this amazing game and simulation, you get to step into the shoes of a head coach and lead your college football program to glory. Can you imagine actually being the head coach of the Duke Blue Devils? From recruiting players and hiring your coaching staff to overseeing training camps and handing out school scholarships, you control every crucial detail of your program. It's all in your hands. Will you actually be able to handle the pressure? And here's what I really love about the game. You're responsible for calling offensive plays. Your strategy will not only determine the success of your football season, but help shape the future and legacy of your program. Ultimate College Football HC is completely free with no ads and 100% playable offline. You can play on the go as you want and when you want to. And of course, we've got a special offer code. Use the promo code LOCKEDONCFB, that's all capital letters, inside the game store to receive a free boost to your program. Make sure to take advantage of this perk as it will get your team off to a strong start. To download the game, just visit ultimate-cfb.com. That's ultimate-cfb.com or look it up in the app stores. Ultimate College Football HC. Begin your coaching legacy today. Winding down today's episode of Locked On Blue Devils, I'm JJ Jackson. He's Josh Cox. Yeah, he's working on the jumper, man. We got to get over to football talk. You don't do a whole lot of basketball talk. You don't do a lot of hoops talk on the Section 17 podcast, but kind of give us a promo for it, man. How can people support your work?
Yeah, for sure. We are not aware of Duke playing any other sports other than football on that podcast. We obviously all follow
That's
Duke
why you come
basketball.
over here. Yeah.
That's right. That's right. We obviously do. But we have created, honestly, we've created a football only kind of community, and that's the Duke Football Talk Section 17 podcast. Whether it be through our social channels on X, Instagram, and TikTok at Duke FB Talk. We have a Facebook group that stays pretty lively. Just search for Duke Football Talk, and the group will pop up. Our website, DukeFootballTalk.com, our YouTube channel, which, by the way, if you're watching on YouTube, we obviously on this channel appreciate subscribers and comments and all that on our channel as well. We're trying to catch Locked On. They're ahead of us on this YouTube thing, so we're trying to catch you guys. But yeah, so that's what we do, and we do weekly podcasts. You can catch that anywhere that you listen to podcasts or on YouTube. Every week, it usually releases at the latest Tuesday morning. Sometimes we get them out on Monday nights. And so we do a bunch of things. We do giveaways, man. If you predict the score the closest, we send you a free t-shirt. Like, we do a bunch of stuff that we're always just trying to have fun, man. We're trying to make Duke football fun again.
So, I love that. It needs to be fun. It's awesome.
Exactly.
Go check it out and support them. All right. So 2 things I want to touch on here quickly, and we'll get into more of this throughout the rest of the week here on Locked On Blue Devils. I know Kevin Conley is going to be stopping back by from Ball Durham, and he's going to have a good breakdown for us on a lot of this. But Boozer Twin updates. It's great when we have them, right? Because sometimes there's nothing going on.
Yeah.
They take an unofficial visit to Duke. Duke happens to make this Pro Devils weekend. They invite everybody in the world back. Their mom's a part of the unofficial visit. Everything just looks fine and dandy. It's great. They head back down to Miami. They go back to Christopher Columbus High School. And Jim Larinaga and Todd Golden aren't the biggest fans of this. That being the Miami and Florida coach, they're making visits to them throughout the week. This past weekend, we get the visit for the Boozer Twins over to Florida. They're preparing to head to Miami for an unofficial visit this weekend. And John Shire just says, all right, I'll play that game too. And he and 3 other assistants have already made the trip down this week to the high school to check in on the Boozer Twins, man. We're getting close to a decision. Like, we don't know when. Yeah. None of that is, but this is like pretty evident that all of these coaches are freaking out because they want this to go their way.
Well, at the end of the day, what these recruits and their parents want to hear is that, that a program is all in on their son or sons in this case. And no matter the connection that Carlos has with the program, I think Coach Shire and Lucas and whoever, I'm not sure exactly who's running point on that. I'm sure Kevin will be able to talk about that. But I'm sure that they understand, and they were quickly had to pivot to, like, mom is definitely a necessary person in this process. You cannot if you're Duke, you cannot just say, oh, dad came to Duke, we're good with the family. Not the case. There's a lot of complexities, none of our business, but there's a lot of complexities within that family. And I think it was really big to see mom on campus. Obviously, I mean, I even think it's valuable for the Boozer Twins to see Kaman working with Derek Lively and understanding that, like, hey, while you're here, you're going to have access. And I know that your dad played in the NBA, but, like, you're going to have access to an Elton Brand if you want. You're going to have access to a Cooper Flagg who will be in the pros next year if you want. So, I think that's a big deal. And then for Shire, I mean, listen, he is a recruiter's recruiter, man. Like, you're not going to one-up this guy. If you want to show off and be involved in the Boozer family life, then he's going to come down and be involved in the Boozer family life right along with you. So it'll be interesting, man. I think there was initially a lot of Duke fans that were like, oh, these guys are absolutely definitely coming to Duke early on. And then, of course, it's shifted to, like, they're absolutely not coming to Duke. They're going to go to Miami or wherever. And now it's like, oh, actually, I think they might come to Duke again. So I think that's kind of where everybody's landed with this, and I'll be looking forward to seeing what they ultimately choose.
Yeah, let's just make it happen, man. We're nervous until it actually happens, so we'll see what kind of decision they end up making. All right, and then last thing, Jeff Goodman from the Field of 68, well-known college basketball reporter and insider, had an exclusive sit-down interview with Jeremy Roach, who now plays college basketball for the Baylor Bears. And Jeremy Roach had some interesting comments to say. Again, we'll dive into this more throughout the week, but basically kind of wanted to stay, Josh, and he's not. He's not playing for Duke this year.
Yeah, I mean, first of all, as my wise father would say, there are always three sides to every story. There's the one person's side, there's the other person's side, and then somewhere lies the truth, right? And so I think we all have to understand that and take that within context. I am not at all accusing Jeremy of not telling the truth. I'm just saying people speak from their perspective. And so I think we have to understand that, number one. Number two, I don't think Duke fans need to let these comments overshadow the 4 years that Jeremy Roach gave to the Duke basketball program. And he gave them unselfishly to the program. He mentioned in the interview that he played out of position at the 2 guard, and he did so willingly, and that he's looking forward to being back at the point guard position. Okay, like there's validity to that. Like there's validity to he was asked to play in a position that was not his ideal for him, his ideal spot. So I think we need to consider all that. But then I think also from the perspective of Duke and Coach Shire, this kind of tracks with the offseason, doesn't it? I mean, Coach Shire got on the Devil's Den podcast and made it very plain and clear that, like, he went to every returner, and I believe him when he said he went to every returner and had individual conversations. And those conversations included, I believe the terminology he used was no guarantees of anything heading into this season, that we were kind of starting from scratch as far as Duke is concerned, obviously wanting to capitalize and maximize the potential of Cooper Flagg, who is going to fit around Cooper. You added then come on late in the recruiting process, and all of a sudden you've got a 7'2" Olympic game playing prospect showing up on your campus, and you really do have to make some decisions and adjustments about what's going to be best. And so I think it all tracks. I don't think Jeremy was being hateful in any way. I think he was trying to be as honest as he could be. He mentioned that they still have a great relationship. He still stays in contact with the Duke coaching staff. And so I think if we're
said Duke's always going to be home.
Correct. And so
Duke's always,
I mean, here's the thing. As with anything, JJ, we just talked here for 27 minutes. Someone could probably take a line from what you or I have said in these 27 minutes and create a talking point, right? And so I think if we're not careful, with this one, it's like, man, that doesn't sound good. But it's like, okay, you have to balance it with all of the good things that he also said. No one's time is perfect, man.
Yeah.
No one has a perfect time at Duke. I mean, very few guys have a perfect time at Duke. You hear Nolan Smith talk about that offseason where him and Kay had it. You hear JJ Redick talk about JJ was done, and like here comes the assistant coaches, here comes Coach K, and so like nobody has a perfect 4 years. And so I think it was great that Jeremy stayed through the Coach K into Coach Shire. That was something that Coach Shire had to convince Jeremy on. And so like
2-time captain, not many people
2-time captain.
That.
Exactly. Yeah. And a closer, man, a guy who made clutch shots, throughout especially the second half of his career. And so like I think for Duke fans, it's like, it's okay. It's all good. I don't believe Duke fans need to overreact to it. I do think we need to understand that like that is a reality sometimes these guys that come to Duke. It's like they are asked to play a little bit out of position sometimes because they have so many other talented guys that are coming in. And that's just a reality of what Duke basketball is.
No doubt. Josh, always good to see you, man. Thanks for your thoughts and insight on a lot of different topics here today. And we'll have to do this again soon, okay?
Yeah, man. Have a great day. We'll see you, man.
All right. That's Josh Cox from Duke Football Talk Section 17 podcast joining us here on today's show. Let us know in the comments below how you feel about Duke football's rushing attack and maybe a thought or two on Jeremy Roach's comments. More coming your way the rest of the week right here on Locked On Blue Devils. That'll do it. As always, go Duke. I'll talk to you tomorrow. My name is JJ Jackson. Thank you and good day.